I would like to welcome Sophie. Sophie, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Carrie. My apologies for being late. Literally, as 9 o'clock came, my internet went down. So
Blame the snow.
that's what happens, right? Anyway, so welcome everyone. I think we have 30. Is that it? Are we waiting for anybody else?
Usually we got some Friday morning stragglers, so I'll let them in if they're incoming.
That's fine. All right. So good morning, everyone. My name is Sophie Boehlen, and I've been an agent at Keller Williams since I think March of 2020. My first year, I'll give you a little bit of background. My first year, I did Ignite that summer, probably 4 months into being licensed, and it was a huge game changer for me. I kind of really took to heart what everybody was sharing with me and applied it. And I really saw my business grow a lot from that. So I think that it's great that you guys are here. Today is really all about you. We're going to talk about your value proposition. And that really begins with who you are, what you know, what you offer your clients, and how they benefit from that. This is going to be more like a discussion because it is very much about you. I'm going to change my view a little bit so I can see more of you guys and less of me. There we go. And so definitely, put comments in the chat box, raise your hand, unmute yourself, ask questions, answer questions. That would be great. So to start off with, we have two jobs as realtors. We run our business and we grow our business. A value proposition is really about growing your business. It's how you market yourself to your potential buyers and sellers. The question really that you ask yourself when you think about your value proposition is, how will working with you benefit your clients versus somebody else? It's not that every, house sells itself and every realtor is the same. So you really need to be able to answer that question for yourself, and you need to be able to communicate it clearly to your potential clients. Because that's how you're going to grow your business. So think about it. If you don't know what value you bring to the table, then you can't really sell yourself to your clients. So like, for example, Eric Akbar shared the story that when he was first starting, he told his clients that, look, I'm new in the business. If you work with me, you will have my undivided attention. And that was sort of his value proposition. Obviously, you go to a listing appointment and you say that to a buyer and seller, they're probably going to think, do I really want to trust the sale of my house to somebody who's untested? And they're probably not going to say that to you. Some might not. So you have to prepare for that. And say, you're probably thinking, why should I trust the sale of my house to somebody who is new to the business? So part of your value proposition is that you're with Keller Williams. We're the #1 office in the MLS. And you say, I have the full force of the #1 office in the MLS behind me. We have coaches, we have training. I can ask anybody on any team for assistance. They will make sure I succeed. So you have the #1 office and you have a dedicated agent whose sole purpose is to focus on selling your house. That's a value proposition. How do they benefit from you being a new agent, for example? Yeah, there are a lot of you there looking at different things. Okay, so how do you define your value? Think about you, but think about how it benefits your clients. For me, when I was starting, I used the fact that I had been an agent for 20 years. Not an agent, an investor for 20 years. And so I always told people, I said, look, I have 20 years of experience buying and selling properties in Cleveland. I know better than most what it's like to be in your shoes because I've sold so many homes or I've bought so many homes. I understand the process from your perspective better than most people. So I'm again saying, this is who I am. This is how it benefits you. In addition to that, I know how to negotiate like an investor. Investors negotiate completely differently from other people. And I bring that skill to the table on your behalf. Again, how do they benefit from my experiences, from my skills, and from my knowledge? The other thing that I would tell people is I'm really, really good at getting properties to appraise. And so you tell a story, like a lot of agents will wait for the appraisal and just say, this is how the house appraised. I don't do that. I make sure that I promote the value that I think that the house has, and I send that to the appraiser ahead of time. And so I can tell them, last year, I kind of reset the multifamily market in Cleveland Heights. I got a house to appraise for $75,000 more than any home in Cleveland Heights had ever sold, any multifamily home. So think about what you do for your clients, your knowledge, your skill, the services that you do. I don't leave appraisals to chance. I tell them exactly what I do to prepare for an appraisal to make sure that the house appraises. I also make sure that I don't guarantee anything. I cannot make promises that a house is going to appraise. So I tell them that, like, look, I can't guarantee it's going to appraise. The only thing that I can do is make sure that I prepare everything to make a case for the appraisal of your house. So what is your value? Like, does anybody want to share like what you think your value is, or what you tell your clients? So Shauna, I know you have a great one. We're going to start with you, but I'll call on other people, so be ready.
Okay, that's totally not fair. Something I ended up not planning, but I do end up selling in a niche market, meaning a pretty small geographic zone. So my value proposition to the client is I really, really intimately know this neighborhood. And I just think that if you have any doubt, I'll tell you where every single who occupies every single house, and I mean not every single, but lots and lots and lots of homes. And if you look at a map of my sales, I have a cluster in one area and then a fan out.
And that's true, like knowing the neighborhood is a huge value add to your clients. So that, and that is a great one, like be your neighborhood expert. And you don't have to sell, a zillion homes like Shoshana does, but you can still be an expert and be a new agent. You can be like, look, I've lived in this neighborhood. Even if you're a renter, I've lived in this neighborhood my entire life. That's a value proposition. I know, how it's grown. I know how it has changed. Like if you were to live in the neighborhood around Wade Park and East 105th in Cleveland, for example, you've seen firsthand how that neighborhood has evolved. If you're door knocking and you're trying to sell one of those properties, you can very easily say to those homeowners, like, look, I'm in this neighborhood. I know this neighborhood. I'm not somebody who's just, a carpetbagger coming in here trying to sell this neighborhood because it's now really super hot. I'm one of us. I'm somebody in this neighborhood. That's a huge value proposition. Anyone else?
Well, I've come from an education background, and so I've worked with a lot of first-time home buyers and sellers. So I've educated them on the process and walked them through it in detail.
And I bet they find that super comforting and valuable because first-time home buyers, they don't know anything. They don't know the terminology. They don't know the process for loans, appraisals, inspections. It's really, really overwhelming. And having somebody who says, okay, I've got you. Let me teach you every step of the way is a huge value. enormous. Anyone else?
I would say work ethic is super important. Just to give your clients the comfort of knowing, oh, she can handle this and she's going to get this done for me. I think that brings a lot of value.
It does, absolutely. And, you know, I have had experiences with other agents where they have not done that for their clients. Sometimes I feel bad, but it's true, you know, saying, I will get it done for you. I will work harder than anyone else to make sure that this deal or whatever deal, if you're a buyer, happens for you in a way that benefits you. That is huge. Anything else? Anybody else has a special skill or experience that benefits their clients?
As a newly licensed agent, I don't even know what I'm doing yet, but I know that with my background, I worked for CMHA for about a year in the Section 8 program.
Mhm.
And so like part of the reason I wanted to get into real estate is because you're so limited with all the government red tape and what you're allowed to do and what you're allowed to like help your clients or help our clients with. So like, that's why I wanted to get into real estate where you can be a little more involved with helping your clients through the process.
Mhm.
So I think just that passion that comes into helping people is a good value proposition that I'm going to use. And then also I've bought a house relatively recently within like the craziness of the past couple of years that's
Congratulations.
been in this market. So I can understand where the market kind of is, if it's still crazy this year or who knows. But I guess I kind of have that background of getting offers rejected. So you know what you have to like go through to get an offer in. So
Well, not that I want you to compete with me, but your skill set would actually be very valuable to investors.
yes.
That CMHA program is something that they have a lot of questions on, especially if they're new investors, and knowing that program from the inside
Mhm.
is a huge value proposition to investors. Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, again, a lot of us, like sometimes we don't know what our value proposition is. We may be a new agent. Maybe we've never even owned a home. We've never gone through the process with a client or for ourselves. We just moved here. We don't know the area at all. Like, I don't know. I know the east side, the west side. I don't really know where the suburbs are. Whatever the situation is, you know, educate yourself. Become the expert. Make your value proposition that you know the areas. You have researched, you know, which developments are going up. You have researched the process, like Art says, you know, he's got an educator background. He helps a lot of first-time home buyers. Even if you've never bought a home, even if you don't have an educator background, you know, ask some information from lenders, you know, what.
So bad for you guys. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry? Oh, okay. And so educate yourself. Make sure that you communicate to your clients that by working with you, they have one of the most knowledgeable agents working on their behalf, holding their hand through whatever process. Even investors who buy 8 properties a year, they need the comfort of knowing that you've got them. You've got this, you understand this, whatever comes up, you will solve it. And this can be explicitly stated, and it can also be like a nuance. I had a client, which wasn't a client at the time, somebody called me on December 31st, said she was going to be in for the weekend, and she is looking to buy a property. She told me she was working with an agent on the west side, but she saw that I had a lot of experience on the east side, and she wanted to work with me on the east side. So I'm like, okay. So I got her to sign a buyer's agency agreement that stated that any property on the east side, she will work with me. And I decided I'm going to make her want to live on the east side, because I'm going to tell her everything that is here. I'm going to tell her all of the developments that are coming up, all of the growth potential, her proximity to the hospitals, to the universities, to this, to that, to that. And that's where she's on a contract in Cleveland Heights. So, and that's because I made sure that she knew all the benefits of Cleveland Heights. And again, you know, you're a new agent, you just moved here, you may not know that, but you have time to get on the internet and research it. What's great about Cleveland Heights? You know, what new construction is going on in Cleveland Heights? You know, call the lender, just say, hey, I have a first-time home buyer. I know she's working with you. What do I need to know about this? So that when you show them the first house, you can say, hey, I spoke to your lender. I know that this is sort of what your sweet spot is. I'm going to try to find you a house in that price range. I know that you would prefer to have seller concessions. This is really a seller's market, but this is how we can negotiate that for you so that you're still within budget. And then they know, like, hey, this person really is going the extra mile to know what my needs are, and not just trying to sell me a house, but sell me a house under the terms that are best for me. So remember, like, one of the big things with real estate is that people think we're in the sales industry. But I would like you to think about the fact that we're in the service industry. We provide a series of services that lead to the sale of a property, but what we provide is a service. So ask yourself, and maybe take a couple minutes to jot down, what kinds of services do I provide to my clients? And obviously this is going to evolve over time. You can think about skills, you can think about experience, knowledge, connections, your network, and whatever tangible services you offer. Like, some people offer cleaning service. Some people offer, you know, in-house photography. Some people offer, I've got this great book of business, or, you know, I have access to this community. And there are a lot of us in this community. You know, I know a lot of people who, you know, want to buy in this community, or I have access to off-market properties and deals because I know a lot of property managers. What services do you provide?
We have, not to get you off track, a question in the chat from Heidi, Sophie, that says, do you just Google what developments are coming, quote, what developments are coming, or do you know, or do you go somewhere specifically to look this up?
I Google it. I absolutely Google it. I'll see something in the news and I will Google, you know, neighborhoods. I know what's coming up now. I can, because I do this a lot for investors. So that they know, you know, where's the big money going, because that's where the little money's following. And so if I can tell my clients, hey, by the way, this is the next hot one. These development projects are going underway. They've been approved. They haven't started yet. If we can get properties in these neighborhoods, that's what we're doing. And don't be shy, call cities, you know, they are very helpful. Just say, hey, I'm an agent in this area. Can you tell me what's going on? You know, any development projects that are underway? Cleveland Heights has tons, which is why the value in Cleveland Heights is going up. It's been lagging behind Lakewood for many years because a lot of the developers and the builders were on the west side, but now they're coming to the east side. And if you were to call or email, the Cleveland Heights, I think his name is Brian Anderson, they'll be happy to tell you. Where, oh, I see the chats, okay. Okay. So now that you've done that, anybody want to share sort of what they've got? Don't be shy. I know that Jade must have an awesome value proposition because I just saw that she killed it last year. So maybe she wants to share some.
You mean value proposition?
Yeah,
So mine is actually, I was thinking a little before. Mine is, I think, more honest. So,
Honest.
so I'm talking about value proposition, not the service. So
Mhm.
earlier question,
Mhm.
I tell people, you know, I mean, certain thing I do, you know, from Asia, we don't have to say, but some we have to say, right? But I tell them I don't want any surprise. If I know, I just tell because I don't want to forget later. And then I don't want you to find out.
Mhm.
So that, and then my niche is I start like all Korean people.
Mhm.
So I speak Korean, and then now I getting more American people too.
Mhm.
And then more referral, I tell people I don't do any, you know, pay marketing. It's more like if I do one person good, they're gonna bring another person.
Mhm.
So all my business is, you know, referrals.
Mhm.
And so service.
Mhm.
The first thing is I am almost always available for them.
Mhm.
Because that's I looking at like my Zillow review, and that's the most they put on honest, you know. Yeah. And then, you know, we are here together, so, you know, try to, you know, I'm here to try to solve all the problem you have. And then I tell people, you know, like sometimes they ask a commission, right?
Mhm.
And then I say I made this commission range. So every my clients are same. So I don't have to, they don't have to argue with me then. And then even like a photograph, I say certain price range. I do this professional photo. And then if more, I do more like drone picture and 3D, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So you offer sort of like a menu.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do like, thank you, Jade. I really appreciate that. I love the fact that she says a part of her value proposition is that she's honest with her clients. And it can be a little daunting to tell a client, especially if it's a listing that you have, some of the issues that you know buyers are going to point out. You know, this is their home. They may have lived there for many years. They're emotionally attached to it. And it's personal. It's their personal property. They've lived there. And so saying, well, this will be an issue. A lot of, you know, buyers are going to say, yes, okay, so you remodeled your shower, but you didn't remodel your entire bathroom. And so you have these mismatched styles. And so the buyer is not going to see or attach extra value to the fact that you redid the shower, because now they have to redo the rest of the bathroom if they want it to match. That can be, you know, difficult. And when inspections come back and the ROC comes back, sometimes you have to have those conversations. They're emotional, but, you know, letting your clients know before you get into those situations, hey, you know, these can be very charged experiences, emotional experiences. My goal is never to upset you, but I will be honest with you. You can trust me to be honest with you, so that together we can come up with solutions that net you the highest amount in the least amount of time with the least amount of problems. So, you know, like Jade said, if you do that at the beginning, before you get into issues and you've established that you are doing this for their benefit, when you have to do it, it's not as much of a shock to the client. So I think that that's a huge, huge value proposition. Anybody else, when we're talking about services, whether it's tangible or intangible?
Hi.
Hi,
This is
Kimberly.
Kimberly. Hi. What I've done for an investor and as well as an out-of-town seller is I actually went and filed the point of sale inspection paperwork for them. That was a step that they did not have to worry about. I'm also just getting the grass cut when needed. I made sure I got that taken, small things that they didn't have to worry about. I took the initiative to get it done on my own. So that was a huge help to them as well. If I could find before the entire process of title, any permits that were pulled, I would go to the city's website and or I would call the city to see the most recent permits, things of that nature. I try my best to provide that value for them. So it's one thing that they don't have to worry about later down the road.
And you're right, for investors, a lot of them don't live here. So having somebody, an agent who will go the extra mile and be like, look, I know this will be more of a hardship for you to get these things done, and you can count on me to do that, has a lot of value. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
While you're talking about small things that make a difference, certainly at the beginning, when you have time, it's really amazing to go to all your closings. I think it's unrealistic later down the road when your business gets to the point where you just kind of can't. But you really learn a lot sitting there, even if the agent literally never picks up a pen. There's nothing for you to do other than sit there and smile, kind of laugh at the little notary jokes, this and that, the other thing. But if you can go attend closings, your clients just feel protected, and you just learn a lot about the process. So that A, when you go to buy a house or invest in a property, you know what's coming, and B, just when they say to you, well, what's going to actually be a closing? You can just say, oh, it's going to be like this, and you can kind of go through the, really, frankly, in the end, it's the least emotional, pretty cut and dry part, but I just think it's a nice touch. If it's probably about half an hour out of your day.
It is, and I agree with you that it's a very nice touch, and they feel protected. Our clients want that. They want to know, even like on the big teams where sometimes you're, need to be handed off to a transaction coordinator and so on, that you're not just being handed off. It's just, I'm putting you in the hands of somebody who focuses on just that. They are an expert in the transaction from contract to close, all the paperwork. I can do it, but I'm not as much of an expert as they are. And so I'm putting you in their more capable hands, but I'm always here to answer your questions, to negotiate for you, whatever you need. So that's also, very important as you grow, or if you've grown to that point, to communicate to your clients that you're not handing them off, you're still there. And I also, if you attend the closings, you're going to learn a lot about the process as well. I think that's a great learning opportunity for you if you are a newer agent. Anybody else? Services, skills?
Hi, so I had put down that I know a lot about Cleveland because I was born and raised here. I feel like that will always be valuable. And also I have a little bit of experience in interior painting and drywall. So if it was something that needed to be done to push, the closing dates, sooner, I could take care of that. And also future speaking, credit specialist, I feel like that's always will come in handy. So.
And it does, a lot of people have questions, even if they bought a house 10 years ago, they don't remember. And I don't know how many first-time home buyers are asking about how much money do I need to put down? Do I really need to put 20% down? No, you do not need to put 20% down. So educating people, even if let's say you have time now, if you could find out about down payments, different loan programs, just even like vocabulary that we use that people would not know, what to expect at an inspection, what we're looking for. I mean, some inspectors will give you a 200-page report. You do not want the first time that your client thinks about an inspection, like what to do with an inspection is when they're faced with a 200-page report. So you want to prepare them for that. Like, look, they're going to tell you every little thing that is great, that is going to have to be, that's fine now, but you probably should think about in the next 1 to 3 years, and something that is immediate health or safety hazard that needs to be addressed now. We're looking at those. We're not looking at all the other ones. The other ones are for your information only, but preparing them for that. And if you were to maybe, let's say, create a series of videos, short videos, here's some vocabulary you need to know. Have questions about down payment requirements, here's a video for that. And you can provide those to your clients. Like, how valuable is that? How much are you going to look like the expert? Even if you've never closed a deal, even if you've never bought a house, you become the expert. You become the more knowledgeable other that they're going to look to and that they're going to feel really, really comfortable with. Anyone else?
I want to add one more.
Yes.
So a lot of my clients are pretty clean, but they don't decorate their house. So I have like new cushions, artificial plants, and then white new towels.
Mhm.
So like 1 hour before photographer coming, I actually bring that and I'm like crazy and put on things and then tell them, little green makes so much better. And these days, especially people looking at picture first.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they really like that.
They look at picture first and then they look at pictures last, because they may have seen 8 houses and then they go back home and they're like, oh, was that the house for this or that? So they go back to the photos. Jade, I do the same thing. I have a bin of white towels and white comforter and little fake plants. And I show up before the photographs and I do the exact same thing because it benefits them. And your clients see you coming in with a box of things, kind of sprucing up their house to put them in the best light for photographs. And they really appreciate it. They're like, wow, like I wasn't expecting somebody to come in and, go that extra mile.
Yeah, sometimes they say, oh, my old realtor never did that,
Mm-hmm.
It's this new thing or, So I
Mhm.
say, oh, yeah, I doing it.
Yes. And, anything that is going to help your clients ultimately helps you.
Mhm.
Yes. Anyone else?
This is Kimberly again. Going back to the statement earlier regarding closings, I do closings full time every day, so I'm very familiar with the entire process. So I'm just wondering, like, how can I provide value with that? Like, I'm aware closing disclosures, HUD 1 statements, the entire package size, the expectations of the signers, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
not sure.
what I would do is, honestly, video is king right now. I would create some videos like, hey, before your closing, this is what you can expect. What to bring. Don't forget to bring a valid driver's license. What to expect. This is what this means. This is what that means. And just simplify it, right? Like, do not make it overly complicated. A few bullet points. And share that, like, this is what's going to happen at your closing. And, if you can attend and you have time for that, great. But as you get busier, it becomes unrealistic to attend all of them. So those videos would be fantastic. And again, anytime you can share information about the process in a way that is easy to digest, I think that that's key and really, really valuable to your clients.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
I'll give it a go.
Thank you.
After doing some thinking, I think that, well, I started off in real estate photography, and that's how I got into this. And so I feel like so ironically enough, in my personal life, I'm kind of a hermit. And so my sphere isn't as strong as I would like it to be, but because of photography, my business relationships are really strong. And so one of the things that I hope to do is kind of leverage my business network and saying that not only I might live on the west side, but I work with a team that's centralized or on the east side that has a massive base. But I work with other agents outside of Keller Williams. You know, I'm working with people from Howard Hanna and Remax every week. So between all of us, there should be no issue in finding somebody that's got the right buyer or seller or something like that.
And that is fantastic. I mean, I use that, you know, just with us at Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan. I say that we have an internal network that I post any listings that are coming up, and I let all of those agents, I'm like, we have, you know, over 450 agents, soon to be 500, I'm sure. But with you, you get to do that plus all of the other brokerages. So you can really promote it way out there, like exponentially. So I think that's a huge value proposition. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Okay, feel free to.
I won't say anything. I won't like point fingers or anything, but I know there's a lot of people that were in customer service in the past. Different. Oh, Adam, can you unmute?
I was trying to unmute. I couldn't. It was blocked by the chat, so I wasn't figuring it out. Yeah, I mean, something I guess I bring. I've been in customer service for the past 15 years of my life, so that's pretty much all I really know. You know, it's definitely being able to adapt to the type of person that you're dealing with and kind of match their energy so that you're not too much or too little for them, and really finding out what they want in a person and what reassurance is, how much communication they want to have. So I definitely think that that's something that I've learned over the past 15 years of being in customer service that makes me, you know, valuable. And it definitely is a great service to give to my clients.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you're right. You know, like, I think that that's one of the things that I've struggled with is to match me to my clients. I've never had to do that in my other previous professions. So, you know, people who can do that or who've had a lot of experience doing that, I think that that is huge. And I'm sure that helps you also with co-agents. You know, you can say that to your clients, like, look, because of my skills, I'm really good at working with the co-agents and making sure that we don't get into a situation where it becomes, you know, a battle of the wills or anything like that, where it ends up that both sides lose because there's some egos involved. You know, because being able to handle the co-agent is a big part of what we do. So I think somebody with your skill set, I think that's super valuable.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I would like that. I might call you.
I'm always available.
Okay. So as you guys continue to define and crystallize your value proposition, I want you to really think about our purpose as realtors. You know, what do the buyers want? So let's say you're working with a buyer. They want the right home at the right price at the right time. What can you do to let them know that they are making a good choice when they're purchasing or putting an offer on a house? For sellers, they want to net the most in the shortest amount of time because time equals risk. But for both of them, both sides want the deal to happen with the least amount of issues as possible. So another thing that you want to do is to communicate how well you will have a handle on the process. You know, in my office, I always say, I don't care who's supposed to do it. If it's not getting done, we're doing it. End of story. It's getting done, even if we have to do it, even if we end up being the admin for the other agent because they're not getting stuff done. I don't care. We're getting it done because it benefits our client. So the least amount of issues is very, very important. And I know we're getting towards the end here, but I do want to mention a few things. We are fiduciaries, which means that we do what is best for our client always. And if you can communicate that you do that to your clients, if you can really prove that to them, you will have a client for life because they will trust you. They will trust you that no matter what, you will always do what is best. And that is part of the honesty that Jade was saying. But also, like, for example, I work with investors. I had a client who had bought a house. He was fixing it up in Cleveland Heights. He wanted me to list it soon. And I found out that this development project was likely going to happen 2 blocks away. And it was going to be a luxury apartment building. And I'm like, property values in that neighborhood are likely going to go up. So I called him. I said, look, I'm not trying to talk myself out of the listing here, but it looks like a new development is going to come to this area and it could really benefit the value of your home. And if you want, I recommend that you hold off on listing your house. We'll find out if this development project is going to go through. If it doesn't, I'll list it in a few months. And if it does, wait until it's built and then we sell. And what did he say? Sophie, this is why we will never work with another realtor. Because he knew that instead of trying to get the listing now, I was doing what was best for him. And that development project we just found out yesterday has got the green light. It's going to go ahead. And he was super happy when I sent him that email. So think about that. Always find ways to prove to your clients that you are doing what is best for them. And lastly, be the consummate professional. Never disparage other agents. Just don't do it. Educate yourself, research, ask questions, pay attention to details, anticipate issues and prepare for them. I got my clients probably $30,000 off a house because the listing agent did not do that. And we were able to use some information and some details of the sale to my client's benefit. So really pay attention to that. Like I said, be prepared, be knowledgeable, be the most knowledgeable person at the table. Not just the facts, not just the house, not just the neighborhood, not just the process, but all of it. And again, you will have a client for life. So remember, ask yourself, are you aiming for excellent or just good enough? Aim for excellent. So any questions? Come on, you got questions, comments?
Sophie, how did you initially get over, I know when you started selling real estate, you had 20 years of investor experience, but how did you initially, at what point were you like, oh, okay, I know what this is about? I feel like sometimes at the beginning, it's a little bit like, what's my value prop again?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I was, the first 4 months were rough. They were just rough. I got licensed. I think I signed the paperwork 3 days before we went to shutdown. And I wasn't quite sure what I was doing at all in anything related to real estate. It was not at all what I thought it was going to be. I thought I knew exactly what realtors did. And I was like, wow, you guys make it look so easy. But I attended coaching with Eric Akbar, and he gave a lot of good advice. And, and again, I also attended Ignite. And one of the things I'm good at is I'm good at listening, and I'm good at doing what people say. And one of the things that Eric had told me told us was to call for sale by owners, but also for rent by owners. The pandemic had just started. He's like, any investor is just a couple of vacancies away from wanting to sell their property. And so that's what I did. I was calling in Cleveland Heights because that's where I own my properties. And I call for rent by owner, and I start chit-chatting with them. And then I realized through the conversation that they related to me because I was also an investor. And so when I'm like, where's your property? I'm like, oh yeah, I own a property, 2 blocks away. And then we started talking, and I realized that as soon as they knew that I was an investor, that I was an investor in Cleveland Heights, that I had gone through the ups and downs of the market like them, and that I knew exactly what they had done, that they looked at me differently and that they trusted me. And I'm like, I'm going to go with this. And that's what I did. That was not my intention when I, became a realtor. I thought I was going to sell houses and, maybe have some investors. But it was just doing things and seeing what gelled and what felt natural for me.
For newer agents, I'm about 2 weeks in. What advice would you give to us?
I would say just research yourself. I mean, just research the area, research the process, research, the loan process, the closing process, research the market, pay attention to trends like on the MLS. You can look at reports and statistics. Like, for example, it will show you that at the end of 2021, the new listings just like fell off the chart, but our sales stayed even, which means if you are going to a listing appointment right now, you want to bring that chart and be like, look, our listings are going way down, but the sales are going up, which means we have fewer listings than needed, even more than last fall. So this is a fantastic time to put your house on the market because nobody else is. And we're selling what's on the market. So again, that's a chart that's available on the MLS. I also Googled Cleveland real estate market. And I found articles from Forbes magazine naming us, one of the top 5 markets to watch. I saw articles in the Wall Street Journal. I saw an article in the LA Times. They called us on the cusp of cool. So, you say that to people and they're like, LA Times, really? I'm like, yep, they called us on the cusp of cool. So, this is the market to be in. Little things like that you can add information, but really just educate yourself. Like, take the time. You've got the internet, you've got YouTube University, and you've got all these agents. I remember when I first got started, Shoshana did a presentation on listing presentations, and she was kind of talking about what she does. And she provided her listing presentation in an editable format. And she was just like, just remove my name and my photo and just use it. Like, that's the office that you're in. Everybody here wants you to succeed. We're going to compete with you, but we're also there to support you and to make sure that you succeed as well. Like, it's a team, right? Is that kind of leverage that, ask questions. If there's an agent, you're like, wow, this is the person, like, how did they get to this? Call them, ask them, like, how are you doing this? I see that you're really on Facebook really well. How are you doing that? Again, this is the office for that. People here are so helpful, so generous with their time, their information, what has worked for them. So that would be my recommendation, just on your own, but also within the office. Just be a sponge and go out there and try it. Just, you get good by doing it. So stay at it.
Thank you. That's great advice.
Yeah, if I had any advice, this is like technically my second year in, but I'm calling it my first year. But if I had any advice for new agents, it would be that you don't know what you don't know. And the only way to know it is to experience it. And so your business, whether you're on a team or not, is going to be your business. And education is obviously the biggest thing that you'll need, but most of it you'll get by going through it. And so I would, if I could go back and do it over again, I would spend the first 2 months of real estate basically eating it and finding ways to get in rooms with people that are doing deals and for free, whether it's going to listing appointments, buyers appointments, going to closes, just learning and seeing all the problems, because that's probably the most overwhelming thing, is that you just don't know what you don't know. And when you run into those obstacles, they can sometimes delay you more than you would like them to. And having that foresight will just help you kind of not feel so overwhelmed.
Right. Thank you.
I appreciate that thought that Sunny just said, because that's all I've been feeling is overwhelmed. My background is a nurse. And so this is like not completely my wheelhouse. And I've been an investor myself for a number of years. And so I do know that aspect of it. And so I thought coming into this, I'm like, oh, I flipped homes, I've got rental properties, I should be able to do this. And I'm here and I'm like, I'm so lost. I feel like I like this is my first day on the planet or something. And so just listening to you and listening to the others chime in about their experiences, it makes me feel a little bit better, because I'm like, is it just me that I'm lost? And I'm having a little difficulty navigating because I don't know which direction to go. So I don't know, I just kind of like out there a little bit.
I like to add a few more. So when I start, nothing I know, like school and then reality was very different. And I was very afraid because we learn law, LAW. So like even I talk, like, should I say this or not, So I take all the class, KW, GM offer. And sometimes I take a second time if they have, second one, because always you can get something and I don't understand everything first time. And then I can say, don't give up, because one day might be very, very hard, but next one might be very easy. And then you just not giving up and then be with them until the end. And then I thinking for me, show up the office was a big thing too, because I can even hear other people talking on the phone. And I was like, imagine, oh, okay, that's the time I should say that way. And then I can meet the other agents and we become friends. And then always kind to others. That's, I think, a big thing too. And always ready to learn. Because there's always, like some people acting like they know everything, right? But actually it's not, right? We can learn more. So I think in that kind of mind is a big thing for new or even experienced agents.
Sorry, I'd muted myself and I couldn't find the unmute. So anybody else have an aha before we go into the breakout sessions?
Can I say one other thing too, Cindy? Cindy, if maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I moved practically across the street. I moved from University Heights to Beechwood, literally like a quarter-mile move, and I almost came unhinged. I mean, I really almost came unhinged between the loan and the move and the boxing and the blah, 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 blah. And the renovations and the new house and the dog, So, and I was like, oh my God, I make people do this every single day. I can't, people are like, I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. Just back it up. It's no big deal. So I would say that in real estate too, like, you're so used to doing it for yourself every day. Like you could buy a house, you wouldn't mind, you would flip, you'd make your analysis about whether it was worth it or not. You would do it. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is like, don't feel bad. It's just it's just a mind shift.
It is, and it is different. Like, I totally agree with you, Cindy. I thought because I had done it as an investor so much, like, oh, I've got this. I just need to just get the license and just kind of slide in there. But that is not how it works at all. Like, I was just like, whoo. Any other ahas? All right, Carrie, I think it's yours now.
Awesome. I actually have a question. I mean, I'm not licensed, but for me, if I was an agent and I wanted to share my value proposition with people who I already know or with my sphere, sometimes it feels weird to just be like talking yourself up, and you don't want to seem like you're giving a sales pitch to your friends and family. When kind of presenting in that way, is there anything specific you do to make it seem like I'm not trying to sell myself, but I'm also trying to tell you this is what I offer, and it's great.
Right. And so I actually heard, I forget, it was somebody in the MAPS program, because I do MAPS coaching. And they had said that when they give their value proposition, they say, I'm not bragging, I'm interviewing for the job. And that sentence they use all the time. And I'm like, I love that. I'm not bragging, I'm interviewing for the job of your realtor, and I want you to know what you would get if you hire me.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of it is a mindset shift, which I'm learning like pretty hardcore right now, especially because like Adam, he's been in sales, so he knows like if you're not used to selling, it can feel uncomfortable trying to sell. And you don't want to sell, you really want to offer value and offer help, and then hopefully in the end you get a check, but always offer the help regardless of what you think you're going to get out of it. Because yeah, it's if you're not used to this, switching your mindset can be a little bit rough because you think you're imposing, or you think you're being needy, or you think you just have a negative kind of outlook on who you think salespeople are. And so kind of getting around that and understanding that, like a good example is I did what Shoshana and the social team were saying the other day about when we were doing our calls, and not just the call once, but we've been trying different methods of calling 3 to up to 6 times in a row. And that seems excessive and extreme. And yet I called a guy, and it was a huge affirmation because I called this guy 3 times. He didn't pick up. I moved on to the next one. 10 minutes later, he called me back and said, I called you back because after the second ring, I felt that like this guy, he needs something important, and something in his head told him, you got to pick up the phone, dude. You got to call this guy back. And it ends up that he's now like, he's an investor type that's going to be looking for something hopefully in the middle of February. So a big thing that we were talking about, I think earlier in the month, was try to recognize your own assumptions about things and realize how many of them are probably negative about how you think you're doing things. Don't assume that calling somebody 6 times is going to get you a negative result.
Right.
Like, because people are often away from their phones, so they might not even hear the first 2 rings, or they're busy. It's having no assumptions about anything will help you. And that's good assumptions and bad assumptions. Don't think this is going to be the perfect transaction because it's a cash deal. You have no idea what's going to happen, or think that this is going to be a miserable transaction because this guy's got a FHA loan or whatever it is. Try to limit your own assumptions and just get ready to deal with whatever comes your way.
I think that's great, Sunny. And you're right. It is a mind shift. For me, I needed to shift from I'm in sales to I'm in the service industry. That was like a big one for me. But yeah, like figure out like what you're doing, because I was uncomfortable selling, but I'm very comfortable providing a service. I am here to help you. That I'm comfortable all day long, but I want to sell you. I'm not comfortable. Personally, that's just me. And so that mind shift, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm approaching it from a different perspective. Carrie, I think we are ready for you.
All right, if anyone does not have any questions, and we're also going to come back together at around 10:25 from the breakout room. So if you do have any questions, you can, ask them then. And Sophie and I will be popping in and out of each breakout room. But you guys, it's time to pop in our breakout rooms and make some calls. Now that we all know a little bit more about our value proposition, this is a great way to practice it. How am I going to deliver this to people? Well, you'll learn more about the best way that works for you once you try it. So we are gonna break out.
So did anybody have wins on their calls that they want to share? Come on, You guys were calling. I know you had some wins. Any warm leads? Okay, so did you feel any different with your value proposition?
Oh, I think some people are still in their rooms. Maybe might have someone.
Oh, okay.
Now.
I was gonna say, I don't mind sharing. That was great. The session was great. All of everyone chiming in with the tips. I mean, I feel much more empowered actually, in such a short time too. So yeah, I was sharing when you all visited our breakout room, someone who accepted a job on the east side, living in Westlake. So yeah, potential warm lead there. I'm going to, that just may open up a whole nother idea of people to look into, as I see people on Facebook and saying, or in LinkedIn saying, oh, I got a new job. I'm going to say, hey, how can I help?
Right, that's a great idea. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Right, congratulations. And
yeah, right.
Great, yes. Anybody else want to share wins or ahas or questions or feelings about their value proposition? Nancy, I see you're shaking your head. Go ahead.
Shaking my head. One of my financial guys called me. I knew he was going to call at this time. I said, I'm going to be on a Zoom, so if I don't answer, you'll know why. So we got off at the moment. We separated to do our phone calls, and he called. And I usually ask for houses because I'm so desperate for properties. But I decided that is not what I'm going to do today. And I said, you know, we're talking about investing. I said, if you know anybody who's interested in investing, I can help them. And then he said, it's really funny you said that, one of those. I get that a lot. We were just talking, my wife and I, blah, blah. And so he's going to talk about it with me. And also my admin, he said, my admin, she wants to start investing. And that was by him calling me. He had a purpose with me and I had a purpose with him. I am very excited.
Yes, I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thanks.
That's awesome, Nancy. All right, we have about 2 minutes. So if anyone has any last minute questions or ahas or anything they'd like to share with the group, please share now. I think that today was a great session. I love that it ran like a conversation. We had amazing participation. So thank you all for showing up and participating. But yeah, anything else, feel free to unmute.
Well, I want to thank you, Sophie, for the good tips you gave us and gave me in the breakout room. Because as we were both talking, we're investors. And I just thought about all those investors that call me looking for properties. And I thought, well, why not? I'm an agent now. Why not see if there's something that I can do to help them? Even though I'm not willing to sell mine, there's somebody out there who's willing to sell. And I appreciated the tips you gave me. And I'm going to use that to find out if they have any that they might be willing to sell and just pass that on through some other investors. And the Sherwin-Williams tip was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And, you know, like, because investors, like I do that, I sell properties to buy other properties. You know, it's not because I want to get out of the game, but sometimes a property has served its purpose. And so then you have like a, you know, a sale and a purchase.
I'll say I'm sorry.
What tip did you give to Cindy?
Go ahead, Alex.
No, I was going to say my aha from the day is just, you know, taking what you said about, you know, you were an investor, you know, thought it would be easy just to jump in and get licensed and become an agent. And, you know, there are a lot of people on the call today share that, you know, they're struggling to navigate a transaction and everything, a lot of the newer agents. So by having a value proposition, a unique value proposition, especially as a newer agent, it's super important because, you know, there's things that everyone on the call named, things that they share that they do that other people don't do. So there's plenty of opportunities in real estate to be creative and think outside the box and do things that other people don't do, whether you're newly licensed or been in the business for 50 years, you know, so you just got to find what it is.
Exactly.
I'd like to know what kind of tip did you give to Cindy?
So I was telling Cindy, for investors, you know, I always ask them how many properties they have. And they'll say, oh, I have 5, I have 40, I have 15, I have whatever. And I'm like, you know, I'm an investor too. And you know as well as I do that there are some dogs in your portfolio, properties that every single time you have to deal with them, you roll your eyes and you're like, oh my gosh, I hate this property. I'm like, the market is so hot right now. It's a great time to unload those properties at a great price and redirect them towards properties that you would like better. So that's one of them. I also told her, you know, go to paint stores, talk to the people who work there and ask them who the investors are. Also, painters leave their business cards in the paint stores. Call them. They're working with investors. Be like, hey, I know you paint. I'm an agent. Can you put me in contact with any of your clients who might be selling or investing properties? You know, I have a screenshot of my business card. Do you mind if I send you my business card? Maybe you can pass them along to your clients. I would be eternally grateful. I also have a lot of clients who are looking for painters, so maybe we can like mutually help each other.
This is Kimberly. I have a question. So I have an investor who stated that he's looking to unload 3 properties. The one property, I saw a tenant move out, and that's what prompted me to call. But it's like he's not confident with listing with me. He just stated that if I can bring a buyer right now before he does the updates for 65, just bring a buyer. So he's just so nonchalant about it. But I want to make him feel good enough to work with me to help list his properties, and he doesn't go to another agent. What kind of tips can you provide me that'll help me make him feel more confident with listing those properties?
So I would say, okay, I can bring you a buyer, but I'm going to be bringing you one buyer. I said, the value in your properties is when you have multiple buyers involved, and then the value goes up, and you're not going to get that unless you list. I said, you know, if you list with us, are you on a team or are you a single agent?
Single agent.
Okay, it's still on us. If you list with us, we are the #1 office in the MLS, and we will be negotiating on your behalf. I bring an agent, we're negotiating against you.
Thank you. I really want to land this, and I just need to, again, feel more confident when speaking with him to make him feel comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to call me. You know, we can talk through it beforehand. Write down my phone number, any of you,
Okay.
but it's 216-849-8032. But you need to show him the value of listing his property, because truly that, if you only have one person, it's a secret. You don't want your property to be a secret.
That's right.
There's so many people out there looking for properties. Why do you just want it to be a secret when one person comes along? You lose your leverage.
And yeah, he said he has, I think, over 40 properties. Him and his wife, I think he's out of state. I really want to land this, so I do need some assistance. I would love and definitely call you.
Yep, definitely.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you guys all so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Sophie. This was amazing. I know everyone here is nodding their heads and got a lot out of this. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm sure you got Sophie's phone number, but I'll email a follow-up to all you attendees with Sophie's contact information if you do want to continue that conversation. So thank you guys all for coming, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.